like a tree is nourished by his roots. His roots grow in different parts of the world. The branches of his family tree spread out over thousands of years and kilometers. But he considers himself a son of the Kazakh land, the land where the nomads of the Great Steppe reached the highest goals. Arman Umarkojiyev, traveler, historian, archaeologist in the new season of the Dala project.
Порой мы даже не догадываемся, что предметы, события и явления.
Sometimes we do not even realize that surrounding objects, phenomena and events are closely interconnected. For example, what can space, the moon, ancient metallurgy and national jewelry have in common, and how all this is connected with the history of Dala, the boundless expanse of the Kazakh land. We will talk about this in our episode entitled The Silver Code of the Great Steppe. To help me find this cultural code, I have here archaeologist and restorer Tatiana Krupa and jeweler Ilyas Suleimanov. Tatiana, the word code is usually understood as the search for a key to something secret or hidden.
Ключа к чему-то секретному или спрятанному за 7 печатями.
I would define it as a kind of chain, a certain factor that can be logically constructed based on scientific data regarding the history of the culture of one people, no matter which people. Today we are talking specifically about Kazakh history and Kazakh culture.
О казахской истории, о казахской культуре.
Tatiana Krupa, historian, archaeologist, head of Umay Marghulan Center, International Research Laboratory at Pavlodar Pedagogical University, one of the world's leading specialists in the preservation and restoration of antiquities, member of the UK Community of Costume Specialists, Global Heritage Fund's expert, member of the European Association of Archaeologists.
Для меня это вещи, которые слились в единый вот этот культурный код, о котором мы...
For me, these things have merged into a single cultural code we are discussing now. I've put on original Kazakh jewelry, and these in particular have great archaic symbols. This piece of jewelry is my native Slobozhansky Dukach coin. The Kazakhs have items with coins too, such as sholpa hair jewelry, jewelry for camisoles, for various headdresses. And this is often coins of secondary use. This piece also has an inserted coin.
Здесь тоже вставленная монета.
So, it's all silver.
Silver, indeed.
Ilyas, I have a question for you. I've heard such a poetic expression that silver is sometimes called the tears of the moon.
Такой символизм, когда золото.
There is such a symbolic association when gold was associated with the sun, while silver with the moon. According to my estimates, this is somewhere around the early Bronze Age. This is when the symbolic association began.
Так сказать, символическая ассоциация.
Ilyas Suleimanov, a PhD in philosophy, a culturologist, and a world-class jeweler. The creator of the Turan ethno-modern style. He has many awards, including the Diamond Order of Karl Fabergé.
The first ever metal used by ancient metallurgists was native copper, and I saw a piece of native copper in a museum. It really is something, a very interesting metal, but I have never seen native silver.
В Якутии, допустим, это самородного серебра, там очень много.
The Sakha Republic, for example, has a lot of this native silver. A huge ingot of native silver is in the Kremlin Diamond Fund. At the turn of the second millennium BC, somewhere around the 20th to the 18th century, the territory of Kazakhstan, and in particular Qazaqstan and Balkhash, were the center of global metallurgy. The dominant stereotype, even in the scientific community, is that nomads were only pastoralists. Nothing of the sort. Nomads were also metallurgists.
Такое, что вот кочевники, они только вот скотоводы. Да ничего подобного. Кочевники – это еще и металлургия.
Древние
Ancient miners knew exactly the direction of each copper vein. They found such veins and mined them, went straight along them. That is, these land areas had the richest copper content. And here is another very important point. If there was copper, it automatically meant that there were both gold and silver. As a jeweler, I cannot fail to mention this. We all know what malachite is. We all know what turquoise is. But few people know that they are copper oxides. The thing is, metallurgy and stone cutting always went side by side. And explorer knew, if there's malachite, if there's turquoise, that means copper must be nearby. And vice versa. If they saw copper, these stones must be within reach as well. Archaeologists find mostly artifacts made of either bronze or iron or gold. Silver is practically non-existent. Maybe with the exception of this well-known silver bowl with some inscriptions found with the golden man in the Issyk mound.
Дело в том, что в ту эпоху это РЖВ называется.
The thing is that in the early Iron Age, in the Scythian Saka era, gold acquired a much bigger value than silver. It has already acquired the exchange value that it has retained to this day. A simple example. Let's say 5 tons of gold and 100 tons of silver are mined. Just compare 5 and 100. In percentage terms, this is 5% versus 95%.
5 из 100, да? То есть в процентовке это 5%, а это 95%.
Иссыкский курган с серебряной чашей. Вы знаете, тут немножко, как говорится, возмутиться.
If we talk about the Issyk mound and the silver bowl, this is where the restorer in me will be a little indignant. You need to understand that gold is inert, but silver, especially if it's low-grade silver, goes into an oxidation reaction and produces corrosion products. So, based on my experience as a restorer, I can say that the preservation property of things in the early Iron Age was often very critical. Silver items do not always make it due to the impact of the archaeological environment. There is a scientific field studying this phenomenon.
Того, что существует влияние археологической среды, это целое научное направление, у меня целый научный.
This is what I wanted to ask about in more detail.
The environment implies air permeability, moisture permeability, impact of various saprophytes. All this has an effect on different metals, including silver.
For example, look right here. This is blackened silver. How do you blacken it? You cover it with hydrogen sulfide. And what is hydrogen sulfide? It is a breakdown product of proteins. If gold is a completely inert metal, then silver is not. It actively interacts with hydrogen sulfide.
Оно не является...
It's not a chemically stable compound and quickly loses its exposition appearance, let's call it that, due to decomposition.
разрушение.
If you look at antique silver jewelry of low grade, they turn green. Why? Because copper atoms are lighter than silver atoms. They rise to the surface and go into an oxidation reaction.
Поднимаются и вступают в реакцию окисления.
I agree with you. The further the wheel of time spins, the more noticeable is the shine of silver in its spokes.
Қазір кейде ойлап отырсам, мынандай сұрақ келеді ойыма. Бізде тарихты тереңнен қазбалап қарайтын болсақ, ең көрнекі бұйымдар.
Sometimes when I think about it, I ask myself this question. From the point of view of the jewelry history, the most notable are the gold jewelry of the Saka period. The Saka style is a distinct style in itself. But what happened then? Along with the Saka era, gold as the main material fades away, and silver comes to take its place after a few centuries. And the style of jewelry changes completely. I think it has to do with the arrival of Islam to the steppe. Probably with the spread of the Muslim religion, the Kazakhs decided to refrain from depicting animals and birds.
Көбінесе осы аң құсты бейнелеуден бас тартқан сияқты. Екіншіден, күмістің арзаншылығы.
Secondly, silver is much cheaper than gold. From time immemorial and to this day, every Kazakh family, our grandmothers, mothers and aunts, have at least one old piece of jewelry. Sometimes they bring it to us asking to make something new out of it. But most often, we leave such things as they were, so that they remain in their original form.
Көбінесе бұны балқытпаймыз, бұзбаймыз, бұны сақтап қалуға тырысамыз.
The famous philosopher Socrates once said, "I know that I know nothing," but a lot of people don't even know that. I wonder, Ilyas, what is the philosophy of the Kazakh jewelry craft?
Я бы слово «ремесло» заменил бы на слово «искусство», ибо в ремесле никакой философии быть не может. А вот искусство – это да.
I would replace the word craft with the word art, for there can be no philosophy in the craft, but it can be in the art, original philosophy, fundamental philosophy. I know very little about it, even though I defended my doctoral dissertation on it. The topic of my dissertation was semiotics of visual archetypes, symbol, ornament, color. And the more you delve into it, the more you realize that you don't know a damn thing.
Казахша көк – это не только синий цвет, да, или голубой, да. Көк, словом, мы подразумеваем, что нечто высшее. Древний тюркский каганат, вот правящая элита, их называли көк-түрік. Но это не значит, что это там синие тюрки, это небесные тюрки. И көк – это вообще символ.
Color semiotics is a very important thing. Let's say the word cock does not only mean blue or light blue. Cock implies something great. In this regard, the people of the ancient Turkic Khaganate were called Cock Turks. It doesn't mean that they were actually blue Turks. It means they were the heavenly Turks, the great Turks. And cock is generally a symbol of aristocracy. Or let's take, for example, the word ak. It means white, but at the same time, it is a symbol of spiritual purity and nobility. Silver is white. Remember the Latin word for silver, argentum. The root of the word ar means white. Now, as for the form, let's talk about the symbols of the ornament. In the Kazakh ornament, and it doesn't matter whether it is jewelry or a carpet ornament, the semiotics and semantics of the symbols are fundamental. There are two levels here. The basic level comes from the Andronovo culture. These are geometric shapes: circle, triangle, square, rhombus and swastika. That is, this is the archetypal level, which comes from the depths of the subconscious. I also forgot to mention a spiral at the basic level. The spiral is called kut. Kut in modern translation means a blessing, the good. And in the ancient interpretation, kut meant the energy of life, a charisma. Embryo is in the form of a spiral, where it's an animal or a plant. A whirlpool is a spiral. Galaxies are spiral. The spiral is the foundation of the foundations. Two kuts, two spirals, comprise a Kokshar Muiz ornament, the horns of a ram. This is a symbol of the male power, his charisma, his leadership. Alexander the Great had these spirals on his helmet. They called him Zu al-Karnain. Zu means two and Karnain means a horn. The two horns are a symbol of the power and life energy of everything.
Зуль – это два, Карнай – это рог. Вот. Зулькарнай двурогий, вот, потому что на шлеме у него вот были эти вот, потому что это символ вот, мощи, энергии, жизненной силы, в общем, всего.
Қазақтың дәстүрлі әшекей бұйымдары басқа халықтардан ең бірінші айырмашылығы.
The main distinction of traditional Kazakh jewelry from the jewelry of other peoples is that we wear them not only for beauty purposes. They also have a semantic meaning, both in terms of ornaments and the very form of the product. For example, if I'm not mistaken, we have 10 iconic rings. Among them are Baldak Juzik, Otau Juzik, Kumbez Juzik, Kustumsik Juzik, and so on. For example, the ring Kustumsik, the bird's beak, was worn by unmarried girls. When a girl got married, she took this ring with her to her new home. During the first year of marriage, she was not supposed to visit her relatives. And a year later, when relatives would come to visit, she would give a sign. If the ring on her finger is worn with the beak down, then everything is fine with her, and she ended up in a good family. We, the Kazakhs, can convey a lot with the help of signs. If the ring is worn with its beak up, it means that the girl is not doing very well. She suffers and yearns for her home. If everything was in order, the girl returned the Kustumsik ring to her relatives. And her mother, having received this ring, gathered neighbors, relatives, and arranged a small celebration, at which she announced that her daughter had gotten into a good family and became its full member.
Барған жеріне тастай батып судай сіңді де көршілерін шақырып кішігірім той томалақ жасаған деседі.
Tatiana, thanks to social media, I found out that you've become a Kazakh in-law.
Свахой.
История вот этого кольца, она очень интересная. Это говорит о том, что я стала украинско-казахской свахой.
The history of this ring is very interesting. It means that I have become a Ukrainian Kazakh in-law. You cannot buy the Qudaghi Juzik for yourself. I came across Gulnur and Jarkhan, who have a small shop. My friend and I were looking for a ring, and I, in particular, wanted a big, beautiful ring. They had only this ring, and they've told me to take it. I can't, I said. I can't wear it just like that, and I can't buy it for myself either, even if I have money. We ended up leaving the store. The owner, Gulnur, caught up with us and said, "Come back, please. We want to give you this ring as a gift." And I say, well, since I'm not actually your in-law, let's say that this ring unites two peoples who, by the way, are close in mentality. This is why I posted on Facebook that I became a Kazakh-Ukrainian in-law. It's kind of a symbol that I'm returning things to their previous glory as restorer, as a historian in my laboratory for Kazakhstan.
Своего рода символов того, что вот возвращая те вещи как реставратор, как историк, да, в своей лаборатории, для Казахстана.
Qudaghi Juzik негізінде қыздың
Qudaghi Juzik is the in-law's ring. The bride's mother gave this ring to the groom's mother. You wear the Qudaghi Juzik on 2 fingers. Why? The Kazakhs say the in-laws are relatives for 1,000 years. And by putting a ring on 2 fingers, the in-laws make it clear to each other that they want the unity of the 2 sides. They want to become one family, to become close.
осы 2 саусаққа тағылады екен.
The German traveler Karutz wrote at the beginning of the last century that in the steppe a silver ruble is unlikely to go into a chest. Most likely it will end up in the braids of a young girl.
Путешественники, они всегда описывают то, что для их культуры.
Travelers always describe things that would be exotic for their culture. women's braid jewelry, called shashbao in Kazakh and chachbao in Kyrgyz, involve tons of silver, including the secondary use of coins. On the one hand, this coin continues to be a coin. It's part of the dowry. On the other hand, when she will get married, she will pass on this braid jewelry to her daughter.
Когда она выходит замуж, то эти костные украшения она отдаст своей дочке, сохранит.
Do these coins have purely nominal value, or does their value depend on the weight of silver? How much silver is there? And can these coins be melted down later and be used for making jewelry? In this, too, I see the great pragmatism of the Kazakh people. I carry everything with me, so to speak.
Надо заметить, что
It should be noted that these coins were used as decorations only by a select group of people. First, you had to be a very wealthy person, because you see, these pieces of jewelry were made using the highest grade silver, 925. The 925 grade silver is called sterling silver. The English pound sterling is made of 925 sterling silver. The vast majority of silver items, however, were made of 500 low-grade silver. A lot of jewelry was intended as a distraction from a beautiful face. It is a talisman that's supposed to protect. Why do Kazakh girls wear a huge onirjiek on their chest? This is a breast protection. She breastfeeds a baby. The breast must be protected. Jaman sozden, jaman kozden saktasin, to protect from the evil word and the evil eye. The Turkic peoples had a lot of gold, but for some reason they still preferred silver. Take, for example, the Khan sabers, of which I have several in my collection. They were decorated with silver and, of course, a large carnelian, a kik. Why? People believed in the magical properties of silver. They believed in the properties of a carnelian, which was considered a powerful amulet against a saber, a lance, or an arrow strike. Thanks to which, parents could let a 5 to 6-year-old boy or a girl play safely in the steppe, because the snake, having no hearing, caught the vibrations in the air. That is, the ringing of silver bells scared the snakes away. This is another amulet associated with silver.
Очередной оберег, связанный с серебром.
Удивительная вещь.
As a result of industrial revolutions, literally everything has changed in the world. The way of life, means of transportation, tools, clothes. But surprisingly, traditional jewelry is still made with the simplest tools.
Ну, я бы не сказала, что он через...
I wouldn't say that they are that simple. It's just that there are techniques used in the manufacture of each of these types of jewelry which have been honed for decades, centuries, and some maybe even for millennia. And in general, if this is working, why not continue using it?
То почему бы и нет?
Genius and simplicity.
Yes, when you watch a jeweler at work, you sit next to him, look at it and think, wow, this is so cool. Because your hands won't be able to repeat this. Considering that he has some tweezers, some tools similar to the ones I have in my lab, the ones I use for restoration. You look at this person and think, Lord, the things I work with were created by the same person I am sitting next to. But oftentimes, you don't even know the name of the person. All that is left is the thing that he made.
Остается только вещь.
Слово – серебро.
Word is silver. Silence is gold. But this rule doesn't always work. It so happens that you meet interesting people and then silence is worth nothing. And every word is worth its weight in gold. Ilyas, Tatiana, thank you for a meaningful conversation. Thanks to you, I learned that there are facets in the history of the Great Steppe that still need to be polished with new knowledge and creative searches. And only then, the legacy that our ancestors left us will sparkle with new glow.
Новыми красками.